Welcome to the Dietitian Side Hustle podcast. My name is Katie Dodd, and I'm a nutrition entrepreneur. I spent 7 years as a side hustler before diving into entrepreneurship full time. Before making the leap, I was bringing in 6 figures through my side hustle. If I can do it, you can too. This podcast is for dietitians, interns, and students who want to be inspired to start or perfect the side hustle of their dreams. Let's do this. Hello and welcome to the 96th episode of the Dietitian Side Hustle podcast, Boulders or Pebbles. So I'm going to share a story today, a story that was actually told today in my mastermind by one of my peers in that group. And I just thought it was so valuable. I wanted to come record a podcast episode and share it with you all because I love it when I get those tiny shifts in perspective in the way that I see the world. So I think this is going to be a really, hopefully inspirational, motivational message that I'm going to send you today. But before I start, I just want to share a little bit about where my brain has been this morning, and it has pretty much been singing Beyonce's new song. Now, the time that I'm recording this, last night, Beyonce dropped her new single, Break My Soul, and it is so good. I was listening to it, I'm like, has Beyonce been watching my journey the last year? Did she make this song for me? I know she didn't, but I swear this song is like the healthcare entrepreneur's anthem. It's really good, guys. And I feel like my entire morning has just been dancing around my house to Queen Bee. She talks about leaving your job and all these things. But there's this one section, Beyonce's not singing, but someone else is. It says, release your anger, release your mind, release your job, release the time, release your trade, release the stress, release the love, forget the rest. So anyways, that's where my brain's been all morning, to the point where my son's like, Mom, stop playing that song. Like, I can't. So anyways, I feel like I haven't enjoyed a release of a song like this in a long time. So I'm just rolling with the joy. So anyways, that's where my brain is at. But let's pull into today's story, Boulders or Pebbles. So Mary Koska, she is an occupational therapist in the Smart Success Healthcare Mastermind. She is a lovely human, lives in Seattle, and she shared the story today in our Voxer group with our mastermind. And I wanted to share it with you guys because when I heard it, I'm like, oh, I've never quite heard it said this way. And I just thought it was a great visual. So I want to talk a little bit about it. And so what she's talking about with Boulders, she's talking about goals, just so you guys know. Boulders are those big goals. Pebbles are the distractions. So I'm going to set that up so that way as I'm telling the story, there's no confusion about what I'm talking about. So she's talking about how when it comes to our big goals, thinking of them as boulders, and we are focusing on pushing that boulder up a mountain, right? We are pushing. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of effort to get to the top, but we want to make sure we are focused on pushing that boulder and we don't get distracted by the smaller ones, by the pebbles. So really keeping that focus, because we know that to reach our goals, to have these, big audacious goals, to actually reach them, it takes a lot of work, right? We're pushing this boulder up a hill. It takes effort. It is hard. We are putting in the work. But if we were to let go of that boulder, to go pick up that shiny little rock on the side, what's going to happen? That boulder is going to start rolling backwards. It might roll you over and you lose the momentum. If you've ever been riding a bike uphill or doing something if you stop pedaling and you get off your bike, it's almost impossible to start again because you've lost that momentum. And that's a huge risk when it comes to our big goals, to lose the momentum, to pick back up again and all the effort it's going to take. And, it might be so hard that you just don't get back to your goal, or you turn around and your boulder's, rolled all the way to the bottom of the mountain. And so at that point, you're just like, well, I got these shiny pebbles, but my goals are way back there. So, and the other thought too, is when it comes to pushing these big boulders, if we push hard enough, we're eventually going to reach the top of that mountain, right? And then the other side, it's a lot smoother sailing, right? It's a lot easier to get to the other side of the mountain. So when she shared that story, I'm like, man, that is such a good analogy for goals, and even kind of the journey I've been on myself to reach all of my goals, from starting a side hustle to building my side hustle to 6 figures to becoming a full-time entrepreneur. I am a goal setter, and I like to call myself a goal crusher. I love setting a good goal. I set them, I set goals all over the place, but I will share, I set goals every quarter. So every 90 days, I set a max of 3 goals. And those goals aren't necessarily just for my business, they're for my business and personal life. And I'm focusing on really one thing at a time. And those goals kind of overlap. But I think sometimes the problem we have is we get so excited about all the things we could do, all the things we want to do, that we try to do all the things at once. Or we have so many goals, or we don't even take the time to set a goal. We have this idea in our heads of what we want to happen, but not quite how we're going to make it happen. And we're just chasing all these pebbles, right? And we're just like, we're exhausted and we're not seeing any progress. We're nowhere close to the top of the mountain because we're just, hitting overwhelm. So I'm just going to throw out some tips and advice for you. And as you think about like setting goals and the dreams you want to achieve, just think of those goals are a boulder you are pushing up the mountain. So for me, I again set no more than 3 goals per quarter. And with those goals, I make sure they're smart. And I feel like we know this as dietitians. Like we talk to our clients about this, the smart, measurable, attainable, realistic, timely goals. We talk about it, but sometimes when we set our goal is, I want to start a side hustle. Well, that's not a smart goal. That's not very specific. That's not measurable. That's not, is it attainable? Yeah, but not if you don't really have clarity. It's, all the things. So making sure that you set very specific and smart goals, right? Once you come up with your goals, big audacious goals, take some time to sit down and figure out what are the action steps. I know this can be hard for people sometimes. I feel like my brain, I'm very good with vision. I'm able to see the future and create a plan on what I need to do to reach there. But I recognize not everyone does that. So a tip for you guys on how to create action steps for your goal is just take time alone, no phone, turn off notifications on your computer, distraction-free time, and just do a brain dump. Get all the ideas and all the thoughts out of your head. So if you want to achieve this goal, what are all those things you possibly could do? And it doesn't have to be pretty. It's kind of messy. You just get it all out of your head. I like doing like a mind map. So I'll have in the middle of the thing, I'll have like my goal. And then I'll just have like those little spider legs and I'll put all the different things that I might possibly have to do. And sometimes you write down something and you realize, okay, that thing is going to take more steps to it. So you have other spider legs coming off of it. So I create this really big mind map. And I will tell you, just doing that brain dump of getting everything out of your head, you're able to look at it on paper and see like, okay, well, these things are actually kind of the same. I can combine them, or here's the logical order for how these things work. Now, if I have a really big, crazy goal, guys, sometimes what I do is once I do that brain dump, I will write all of those action steps on sticky notes. I love sticky notes. I feel like at any given time I can share like multiple sticky notes on my desk. If you're watching this on YouTube, I am sharing with you guys. I think I've got 5. Oh wait, I got a 6th sticky note. I got a lot of sticky notes. So I do love me some sticky notes. I should invest in 3M. So I will put all of my action items on sticky notes and I'll spread them out on my desk. If you don't have a big desk, kitchen table, kitchen counter, something big. And then I will start moving those goals around, sticking maybe a goal on top of the other, or not goal, steps, action steps. So moving those action steps around, maybe if there's like, okay, these are kind of the same thing or can be done together, I will, stick them together. And then I'll have this like layout of, okay, here's all the things I need to do. And here's the logical order of how to do it. Take a picture of that. And then depending on how motivated I am, I might like type it up or I might write it down in that order. But then I actually have a plan. So here's my big goals. Here's how I'm going to do this. Here's how I am going to push this boulder up the mountain. But here's the thing. We can have big goals. We can have action steps, but if we are not focused, if we do not have laser focus, we are not going to reach those goals. So how do you get laser focus? I think there's a couple things there. First off is having a really strong why, a strong why behind why you are doing the thing. For me, my big why it's kind of 2 things. My big why is my kids. Building a life where I am present with them and can just this big dream I have for being present with my kiddos and being able to provide for them in ways that I never previously imagined. So they are my why. But another big part of my why is my faith in Jesus and really living the life he created for me, using the gifts that he's given me and serving other people well, because I do believe that's why God put me on this earth. So I have some very strong whys. And that's important because when you're pushing that boulder up the mountain, it's getting heavier, it's pushing back, you hit a really steep spot of the mountain. Maybe there's some twigs and some rocks that are hard to push and navigate around. Man, if your why isn't strong enough, you're just going to be like, why am I putting in all this effort? I am exhausted. I'm just going to let go of this boulder. Forget about that. So having a strong why is key. but then having laser focus. And what that means is you set those goals and you commit to those goals. And what that means is saying no. Saying no to things that do not fall in line with your goals. Now, dietitian side hustlers do not have a lot of time, right? Many of you have a full-time job, you have families, you have lives outside of all the things you're doing, right? I mean, we're not just living to work, we're doing all these things we love. So you have to have laser focus, and that means saying no to other things that come your way. Sometimes it's no, period. Sometimes it's no, not right now. And I think sometimes as dietitians, we struggle with no. We struggle with, oh, I don't want to let someone down, or, well, that's a really cool opportunity, or maybe I should do that instead, or maybe I'm pushing this boulder up the mountain, I'm working on this goal, and it feels like it's never going to work. So you know what? I'm just going to let go of this boulder and go chase this one. But then the problem is you're exhausted because you're constantly pushing boulders halfway up the mountain and you're never to the top to where it kind of rolls down, right? So making a commitment to yourself of, okay, I've set these goals, no more than 3 per quarter. You could start with 1 per quarter, 2, 3 max. Have these goals, have these action steps, have a strong why, and be committed to staying focused on those goals. Think of a horse who has blinders on, right? You cannot see those shiny rocks around you, right? You are focused on the boulder, the thing in front of you pushing it up the mountain, because you know if you get distracted by, we also call it shiny object syndrome. If you get distracted by shiny objects, you let go of that boulder, you lose the momentum, it goes backwards, you're not going to reach the top of the mountain, you're not going to reach that goal. It's going to be another, time that passes and you're like, well, there was another good idea that never came to fruition. So I hope that this picture, like painting the picture of pushing boulders up the mountain, is helpful for you. Thinking of these big audacious goals, these big dreams you have, because I know that you guys listening, you guys all have dreams, whether or not they are for your business, for your life. Like, we all have dreams, we all have things we want to accomplish, things we want to do. But the question is it going to remain a dream in our head, or is it going to be something that we are actively living in? I've shared multiple times I'm actively living in my dreams, which is totally bananas, because I feel like I thought I had big audacious goals, right? I thought I did. And I feel like it's with the journey. Every time we push ourselves outside of our comfort zones, we grow in our ability to kind of like set bigger goals and get more uncomfortable. But being this full-time entrepreneur, a lot of you listening know, just wasn't a dream I had when I started this brand. I was like, I'm a dietitian side hustler. I'm not a full-time entrepreneur. And I identified a lot with the brand of this company. And it was just something I didn't think the cards were on the table, or the stars in the sky, or whatever, however you say it. I just didn't think that was in the cards for me, right? So when I think of right now, being in my 6th month of being a full-time entrepreneur, and the extreme gratitude I have for being present with my kids, present with my family, not stressing about money for the first time ever. Sometimes I stress, but I will tell you, I think my brain is like hardwired to, constantly stress me out. It's like, don't worry, Katie, I've got your back. We're going to stress about this silly stuff that doesn't matter. I feel like no matter what, my brain finds a reason to stress, but it's something I consistently work on. So anyways, all that to say is like, I am actively living my dreams, and I know all of this stuff is possible. But the thing is if we want to be living our dreams, even beyond what our wildest dreams are, we have to make sure that we are focusing on getting those boulders over the hill and not chasing those shiny rocks, because then we will never achieve those goals. And again, these will just remain dreams that aren't satisfied. And oh my gosh, there's this quote, I don't remember it, so maybe I shouldn't bring it up, but there's a quote, and I think it was in the Bible when I was doing my Bible study the other day, but it was talking about how, like, I'm just paraphrasing, but I think it's something like, a dream unfulfilled makes the heart sick. And I wish I could remember it off the top of my head, but my brain does not work like that. But I had read it when I was doing my Bible study, and I just thought, man, how true is that? When we look back and think like, oh man, I wish I would have taken that shot. I wish I would have done that. I mean, it really does make the heart of like, man, I wish I would have pursued it when I did, when I could. And I will tell you guys, working in home care, working with older adults for as long as I did, really changed my perspective. Meeting with older adults in their 90s who are no longer physically able to do what they could. And I think of like, man, this person used to be a runner, and they would give anything to run again. And I would think about how I'm young, I'm strong, I'm capable. I was so motivated by working with older adults. I went and did a triathlon. a sprint triathlon. So it's like the shortest of triathlons, but it's still a triathlon, right? I still did the swim, the bike, the run. And part of it was because I was like, man, I look at these people who, they can't do what I can do, and they'd give anything to do it. I'm like, why not do it now? So that's more physical stuff, but even thinking about the dreams and aspirations we have and how I don't want to get to the other side of my life and look back and be like, man, I wish I would have. I wish I would have taken the risk. I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have done that. And I will tell you guys, it doesn't matter what your age is. For those of you listening or watching this, it's never too late. It is never too late until you're dead, right? It is never too late. And I think sometimes people think that it's just too late for me. It's not in the cards. Whatever you want to do, it is not too late, and it is possible. As long as you are still breathing and your brain is still capable of thinking, you can achieve all these things. So I'm getting on tangents, but again, this was just a message about the boulders or pebbles that I heard this morning. And it just was really like, oh man, that just hit me. And I just was able to see that visual of pushing, that boulder up the mountain. And I just really wanted to share that with you guys, because one of my goals with Dietitian Side Hustle is I want you guys to achieve your dreams. I want you guys to have mindset breakthrough, perspective shifts in what's possible for you and what you can do. So thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. If you want to learn more about how we could work together, learn about some of the freebies I offer, and again, potentially working together if that's in the cards for us, go ahead and visit www.katiedodd.com, and it has all the links and all the ways that we could work together and all my free stuff. So thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Bye, guys.